Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all feeling refreshed. Our next panel discussion is on embracing sustainability, no turning back, which will be moderated by Dr. Sittivaekin, CEO of DC Consultants and well-known new anchor. May I now invite our moderator up on stage. And we have with us four distinguished panelists, which I would now like to invite on stage. Mr. Arthid Nanthawithaya, Chief Executive Officer of Siam Commercial Bank. Mr. Predee Daochai, President of Kasikorn Bank. Mr. Piti Tantakasem, Chief Executive Officer of Thai Military Bank. And Mr. Kelvin, Chief Executive Officer of HSBC Thailand.
Good afternoon, everyone, and also honorable panelists, good afternoon. Well, 70 minutes from now, we will be hearing what I would call the top spot of the 3 Thai banks and 1 foreign banks, sharing with us about embracing sustainability, no turning back. That means we are looking forward now for the last sessions. We will be talking about tangible actions as well as commitments. But before I go on to asking my questions, I'm pretty sure that the executives upon the floor might have their presentation or their input about what have they done with sustainability. First of all, I wish to invite Kun Predee Daochai to give the presentation.
Good afternoon. In my first slide, I will talk about how we conduct our business at K-Bank. Sustainable development is not new. It's not a new thing for us, but instead it has been the philosophy that we have used in our operation for a number of years and continue to use to this day. Sustainability is embedded in our strategy and operations. We conduct business on the foundation of a bank of sustainability with appropriate risk management and good corporate governance principles. We strive to balance economic, social, and environment dimensions to achieve goals and create sustainable long-term returns. A sufficiency economy philosophy comprised of moderation, reasonableness, and prudence is fundamental for sustainability framework. Sustainability is a very important issue as it embodies the ways to systematically mitigate risk so that the business can operate sensibly and continuity. Having spent many years in the risk management field, I have gained the experience to help conduct our business with sensible risk management, built on a foundation and philosophy of good corporate governance. For our bank, the sustainability tone has been set from the top to build unity. The chairman of the board and chief executive officers drives the bank towards sustainable development by setting the tone and instilling the sustainability culture throughout the organization. The board of directors has also endorsed a sustainable development policy as a guideline for our business operations. Our sustainability development efforts are benchmarked against global scale and standards, international principles as well as national and international benchmarks. These are holistic measurements for sustainability, and some measurements are quite new to the banking sector. In the past, we may have been more focused on economic factors, but today, we have integrated sustainable development, climate change, and emerging risks into our strategy and risk management policies. Economic aspect. Responsible lending has expanded to include sustainable finance by instilling ESG factors beyond lending products to include investment, advisory service, wealth management, etc. To affirm the importance of environment and social impact management, we have formulated a policy of responsible lending and investment, along with considering processes that take into account ESG factors. An exclusion list has also been established, along with sector-specific guidelines for credit assessment. Sustainable finance is embedded in our risk management practices to ensure appropriate risks and returns. IT security has expanded to cybersecurity and data privacy, along with our leading position in digital banking and data analytics, in order to build trust and awareness in all stakeholders. Social aspect. Social policy has expanded to include the goal of good corporate citizenship, as everything we do should enhance our contribution to society. Financial literacy and financial inclusion is not just a part of CSR activities, but a part of product and service offerings. We are working to continue to combat the key barriers to financial inclusion with a high cost and low visibility by lowering the cost of accessing financial products and services and increasing visibility to customers via their mobile phone through our K+ application. We also offer via a banking agent model to ensure a great number of access points for customers wherever they are. We are also strong believers in strengthening financial literacy, which will help instill financial discipline in the public. Our K experts help educate customers to protect themselves from emerging risks, especially in cyberspace. Our financial literacy program offers all customer segments, including retail, business, international business. Environmental aspects. Our environmental policy has expanded to include the goal of a zero carbon society. K-Bank's environmental policy is not just a part of CSR activities, but it is integrated into our operations to lead us to become an environmentally conscious bank. For example, green DNA, green processes, green facilities, and building carbon neutral SD bonds. In 2018, we became the first and only commercial bank in Thailand to be carbon neutral. However, this achievement is not yet organic, as we bought carbon credit. In 2018, we became the first bank in ASEAN to launch sustainability bonds, which were worth $100 million to be used to finance projects that will provide environmental and social benefits. From our experience, we have learned that sustainable development is neither quick nor easy, as it has to systematically develop over time. As risks are always present, sustainable development is a continuous process. Sustainable development will never be completed, but rather something that an organization must do continuously, as new risks emerge all the time. So far, we have made progress to ensure maximum benefit for all stakeholders, paving the way for sustainable growth. To the philosophy of sustainable development instilled in all our operations as part of Green DNA. It is a two-way communication. We listen to all stakeholders by adopting the AA 1000 Stakeholders Engagement Standard and creating opportunities for stakeholder participation via related units and design processes to identify their needs and concerns through various forms of activities. For example, meetings, seminars, customer and employee survey, and in-depth interviews. The results of this effort have been used to determine practical guidelines that should alleviate negative impacts and efficiently generate added value. Risk mitigation and benefit are measured through supply chain, although some measurements are quite new to the banking sector. Sustainable development requires collaboration between many parties, government, regulators, businesses, communities, etc. It is important for the government as the top authority in the country to be involved and lead by example, as well as to ensure regulatory alignment to create nationwide impact. We strongly believe that collaboration across industry and organization, not competition, will benefit nationwide sustainable development. Last but not least, with a culture of sustainability, we can set a standard for ecosystem. If we do consistently well, we will set an example for the financial system. If the whole system behaves similarly, a major crisis may be avoided, or at least the major mistake that led to previous financial crisis will not be repeated. The banking sector is a gearing mechanism to help propel economic growth. Thus, it is a responsibility to help embrace sustainability for the country by integrating sustainability into every dimension of our business operations and decision-making processes. We have made progress so far, but many challenges remain. However, I strongly believe that along with our strong collaboration, we can create good things together for our society, our nation, and our world. Let's do it together. There's no turning back.
Well, thank you very much, Kun Predee, for having shared with us substantial amount of what K-Bank has been doing in promoting the sustainability. And now let's send the same questions also to Kun Piti. I think we met last year. That means you have done quite a great deal to be invited here again. Well, in the space of 1 year, what have TMB done in order to embrace sustainability and that you can emphasize once more, no turning back on sustainability? Well, Kun Piti, please.
Dr. Witt. I feel very much privileged standing on this stage together with a global bank and two big local banks that are the leading in this area. The two banks are listed on DJSI, so I feel very humble today. So would like to shift gear a bit on the topic that I feel very passionate about and personally start to get more and more worried about this issue and get very fortunate that has been assigned by Kun Predee, the chairman of TBA, to help lead one of the joint projects, which I will explain about it later. Let's shift gear a bit, looking at the numbers. I think governor and central bank has touched very often on this topic. This is what I've seen. This is what we have seen. Thai people start to accumulate debt too early, too much, and start to become NPL too soon. And they will be in debt for too long. This is a stat, right? Soon they have almost 500,000 baht, and 20% of them turn to NPL. And when you become retired, about 20% of those people still have debt of also almost 500,000 baht. Another interesting stat. Yes, our good news is our GDP is still growing. Bad news is saving is not growing, and households' debt growing very quickly. I'm not the economist, but by looking at this, is this country finance GDP growth by using household debt? So we borrow so that we can grow GDP. I don't know, but for sure, seems like we are not saving enough. Another interesting fact, right? All our toys, boys' toys, particular, getting cheaper. Computer, cell phones, car, yeah. But we have to eat. I'm not sure good news or bad news. We live longer, die hard, and we may die with struggle because hospital bill, Medicare bill is getting more and more expensive. So we will retire in debt. Maybe by that time you have to sell your computer, cell phones, or your new cars to finance your medical bill, which would worth nothing by that time. And we are not the first. Right? Back a long time ago, saving and loan crisis, that all cap loan in US, Hong Kong, right? Credit card consumer loan crisis, followed by Korea, and then US mortgage, which is quite recent, about 10 years ago. When we look at the delinquency rate, we are so far away from that, but I don't think that we can be complacent that Thailand is far away from household debt crisis. The good thing about Thailand is we are almost full employment. Let's imagine if this trade war continue and Thailand start to have unemployment issue for the first time. I think we have very little space and delinquent could rise very quickly. And this is something that we never experienced before in this country, consumer debt crisis. And to me, I think it could be even far more difficult than corporate debt crisis that we faced in 1997, which about $1 trillion baht still hang in there on the government balance sheet. This is very common. This is not only for the case of Thailand, right? Our GDP is getting lower and lower, so we have to boost economy. Private investment, government investment, no more room. Not many private would like to grow by running against the headwind. So we have to rely on the domestic consumption, lower the rate, hope that people will spend more. Banks themselves, including every bank, it's difficult to grow, so they have to become more aggressive in lending to consumer. And at the end, Thailand, hopefully, will not end up just like the case that I just showed in other countries that they faced with this issue before. And for us, I think the risk could even be higher. Those countries I just showed is before this social media, e-commerce boom. Right? Today, young people, if you look at the stat on Google search, the top search are relating to luxurious vacation, luxury products, the 11/11 campaign by Lazada, things like that. So those kind of consumerism, right? Easy to borrow. You only live once, but you may forget that you would live very long. So the only live once kind of mentality make people want to borrow and spend and live their life to the max. And I think that is dangerous. We just signed MOU, and among only Thai commercial bank. Bad news is we represent less than half of the market share. I think this one is healthy. Mortgage loan, business loan, at least it creates certain productivity, or it helps ensure that people will have home to live. This part worries me, personal loan. So in terms of number of people, it's the largest, right? Almost 10 million people. In terms of exposure, it's also the largest. And commercial banks, it's not only the contributor, SFI, non-banks, and many more. So what bank can do? We already touched about responsible lending. But what else can we do? As mentioned earlier, Thai Bank Association, altogether we start to do financial literacy, and we are very focused. We start with the last year, the senior undergrad student who will live university, and will have the first time power to spend because they can use salary slip, do not have to beg for money from their parents, have credit card, have ability to borrow and spend. So we banks join hand. Last year we do the pilot, give them knowledge so that they will be immune by their own power to spend. This year, just last 2 weeks, very good news. We see volunteer from 12 banks, 600 people come together, want to be the trainers. And we will go out and teach, give knowledge to, we aim to have 10,000 university students this year from 30 universities throughout the nation. Hope that they will learn, they will tell their friends, they will know that by the time they get to 30, if they do not live their life carefully, it would be too late. Because by the time that they reach 30 and they end up having $1 million in debt and they just married, they want to borrow to have their first home, too late. Your debt is already up to the neck. You don't have more room to borrow for the things that really more important for your life. Other things about behavior, see cases in other countries. Sure that many of you heard about sesame score. Yeah. Chinese people are so crazy about having good sesame score. And that's how they incentivize and tell what good behavior means and translate into score. So banks can do the same. There are banks that tell what is the right behavior, what is the right discipline that would give you ability to borrow in the future or borrow with a more competitive rate if you behave well, if you have discipline. Also, ING and Bank of America, they round up every time that you spend on credit card. Let's say you spend 89 baht, it round up to 100. The 11 baht is not free. 11 baht put into saving account so that you start to see that, oh, I may spend a lot, that's why I have a lot of money in the saving account. So they can see it's like score in parallel, right? And I'm sure that banks can do a lot more together because at the end, the viability of any business would heavily driven by their ability to maintain healthy relationship with their stakeholders. Meaning that sustainability cannot be the sidebar executive agenda. It must be the priority one mission for any companies or any industry. ขอบคุณครับ
Well, thank you very much for having shared with us the information, Kun Piti, for that. Well, let's now hear from HSBC, one of the global banks. How have you translated the concept embracing sustainability into tangible actions? Well, Kun Kelvin, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank Bank of Thailand for inviting me here, and the governor in particular. I mean, it's really an honor to be in the panel of distinguished, all the CEOs of the Bank of Thailand here. I mean, I would just like to share with you a bit of perspective of HSBC and how we view and how we embrace sustainability. First of all, the topic today is about no turning back. Yes, it's forward-looking, but I also feel that climate issue is a big issue for us, and there's really no turning back as we see what's happening. So just last month, I was actually on vacation at Cairns in Australia with my family, and we went diving. And I was told that in 2016 and 2017 alone, just that 2 years, more than 50% of the coral reefs in the Great Barrier Reef died because of global warming. I mean, that amount is staggering, more than 50%. And it's a world treasure for us. And it's really no turning back. So I think there's this sense of urgency that I think we all now feel, right, about, climate change and how, as an institution, as corporate citizens and all that, we can be responsible in terms of trying to stop this. Unfortunately, the Cairns issue is just one example. There are many examples that we see now every day, from droughts to hurricanes to and all that. In HSBC, we have made several commitments in terms of sustainable financing and sustainability. And in particular, we have said in November of 2017 that we will invest US $100 billion from then to 2025 in terms of corporate sustainable financing and investments. And why are we doing that? Is it purely from the good of our hearts? Well, that's one of the reasons. But more importantly, there are threefold reasons why we think that it's important for all of us. One is commercial reasons, actually. If you think about it, really, this trend of moving towards, to transition towards a low-carbon economy, it's going to be a great trend. You have EV cars, you're going to have renewable energies and all that. As a bank, as a financial institutions, we should all be on top of what's going on in the economy to spot what are new challenges, what are new opportunities, so that we can actually move. And naturally, the trend is that sustainability and corporate sustainability is no longer something that people look at. It's actually, for our customers, it's a business that they must look at, and people are moving towards that. So whether we like it or not, if we don't embrace it, we'll be left behind it. The second thing that we look at is risk. I think there's a lot of talk already about risk from the previous panels on all that. And for us, it's very important that we assess the risk, whether it's physical risk, regulatory risk, or reputational risk. And that's important because what we put in our balance sheet in the future will look very different. And how climate change impacts our customers will also be very different. And we need to be on top of that. In fact, if you look at our HSBC's report, climate change and environmental risk is one of the top emerging risks that we place there, because we feel that it's very important and we need to be on top of it to manage that risk. Third, last but certainly not least, of course, is social responsibility. And that's something that it's obvious, but I think that, from a millennial point of view, when we hire people and all that, when I talk and have basically skip-level lunches with our staff, the younger generation actually says that they want to work in organizations that embraces, good ESG culture. And that's something that actually we should all embrace too, because that's where we are going to. Even the investors, I'm not sure if you read the Financial Times yesterday, but it was a very interesting article about how asset managers are putting a lot of funds in there, because the millennial investors now are saying that they want to put the money in to good, not only for returns, but for good use. So this is a trend that's continuing. So I don't think that we are looking at it just from a corporate social responsibility, but it's an urgency and a necessity that we are looking at. So in a nutshell, these are the three things that HSBC is looking at in terms of to support sustainable growth. One of it is future skills, which my colleague Piti has talked about in terms of financial inclusion and all that, and that's very important. My belief is that you give a man a fish, he eats for one day. You teach a man how to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So future skills and all that's very important. Now, obviously, we cannot contribute as much as the Thai local banks here. We are just a foreign bank with one branch. But we try in whatever means that we can to work with the community here also to help in terms of, promoting future skills. The second thing is basically a sustainable network and entrepreneurship. I think that's important to create jobs. And I'm going to talk about basically the whole supply chain, which is a very important aspect of sustainability. And the third is sustainable financing, which is basically talking about how capital flows and how we can basically help in terms of looking at the green financing. HSBC, I've said, these are the 5 commitments that we have made. The first one is to put in US $100 billion from now to 2025. We also are not financing any more coal carbon, thermal carbon emissions. And we are working with customers to see how we can do more renewable energy. We are 100% committed to actually source from renewable energy as far as possible. Disclosure, there's a lot of talk about disclosure, and that's something that you can see in our ESG report every year, that we do full disclosure in what we do in terms of corporate sustainability. And finally, we have actually set up a HSBC Center for Sustainable Financing to provide thought leaderships in everywhere that we function, in all the countries that we go to, and to basically to share best practices and learn from others also, including the NGOs, and how we can work together. I'm just going to talk a bit about the green bonds because I think that's important and everybody talks about it. But basically, there's a huge spike in terms of the green bonds issuance. So year to date of June, you see a 49% increase in volumes and 56% in terms of transactions. Basically, we have raised US $162 billion already year to date. And it's a span across, from corporates to FIs to supranationals to sovereign issuance and all that in all different currencies. Now, if I may, I'm just going to talk about this a little bit of this. In February of this year, HSBC was one of the lead underwriters and basically arranger for Indonesia's first Sukuk green bond. The reason why I chose this example, there are many examples obviously, was I thought that it may be relevant for Thailand, given the fact that there's so much infrastructure projects that's going on in Thailand, in the EC project and all that. And to me personally, I think many of these does qualify for green because high-speed rails and all that is low carbon emission mode of transportation and things like that. And it's food for thought, as a country in Thailand, maybe there's something that we should all embrace and see how we can work towards it. But basically, Indonesia basically issued a $3 billion green bond in Sukuk in nature. There's a 5-year tranche and a 10-year tranche. And basically, it's a pool of funds that the Ministry of Finance actually have incorporated. And each ministry, so you see basically the sectors that's qualified for this, is from tourism to agriculture to even buildings, So it's not your usual just transportation or renewable energy. It could be anything that can be used, but it's qualified as green. And there's specific, basically, monitoring and within them, and basically Cicero, which is the second party opinion, in terms of dispersing of this transaction. So I've said, this was done in February of 2018. 5 years, Sukuk, So Green, we were the So Green advisor, and the first sovereign green bonds, Sukuk bond, and first done in Asia. Okay. Moving a bit of green bonds and green financing, which we much talked about, I'd like to move on to something that's quite interesting, in my opinion, which is the global supply chain. Now, if you look at a company in particular, every product that we buy and all that, every company actually measures the carbon emission that they have. But lo and behold, actually, if you trace through the whole supply chain, it says here and under research that 95 to 96% of basically green carbon emission comes not from the company itself, but the whole supply chain, right? So it's important that, from a company's perspective, you don't only measure how much carbon emission that you emit, but you look at the whole supply chain that is done. So one of the things I think my colleague from WWF has mentioned is basically our partnership with Walmart. So in April of this year, we announced a global program with Walmart in terms of looking at the supply chain. Walmart actually had started this program called the Project Gigaton, and their mission is basically to avoid 1 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas emission through the whole supply chain. In the past, what all these giants do, and Walmart is one of the largest retailers in the world, what they do is actually they put pressure on the suppliers to say that if you don't basically comply to these standards, we will not take you as a supplier. We are flipping this around for once and said, if you do, we will provide you incentives. So it's a bit between a carrot and a stick, and this is more a carrot. So what we are doing is that we are working with Walmart now, and we are working with the whole supply chain financing to say that if you are compliant under Walmart standards in terms of sustainability, we as a bank will give you special preferential rates. Okay, so it's an incentive, right? And just to give you some background on this, so one of the things we need to do is this thing called a SMART goal. right? I think you've heard of SMART objectives and all that. And a SMART goal basically allows us to say that, you need to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be achievable, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be time limited, right? And this program actually was not set up by HSBC. It's a Walmart internal program. What we do is that we just support them, and under the leadership, under the guidance of TSC, which is the Sustainability Consortium, right? And we say that, okay, as long as Walmart and the TSC is basically happy with this compliance, we as a bank would basically provide financing and cheaper financing. Now, you might say, some skeptical people might say is that, maybe you increase the price first and then you reduce it further. But this is Walmart here, and we can't do that. Walmart always determine the price and all that, so they are a big organization. They have in general 2,800 suppliers or so, right? And they are basically encouraging people to sign up for this. Why are we doing this, you may ask, for HSBC? We are doing this because obviously, this is part of the global sustainability program that we are committed to. But the other thing, of course, is that we actually have a lot of added new customers that comes into play. Because as the suppliers sign up for Walmart, some of the suppliers are not customers of ours. But because we are financing them at a cheaper rate and all that, we convert them to customers of ours too. So that is a win-win situation for us and for Walmart and for the suppliers. Now, I'm going to say that, to bring this back to local context, I've been seeing quite a few of the large retailers here, and I'm talking to them about this and seeing whether we can do something in Thailand. I would love to do something here in Thailand for them. But many of them tells me that they don't even know where to begin, because for Walmart, it's a huge program that they have already and all that. So I would just like to say that it is a journey. It's good that we start this conversation. All the customers that we've met have not said that they are not interested. All of them said that they are interested, but it's the how and execution actually that's important. And I think that it's a forum like this, which I really appreciate the Bank of Thailand to create the awareness, to start that conversation with the corporate customers here too. One of the challenges that I think I hear about is the fact that, how do you monitor? What's the benchmark for sustainability and all that? So for Walmart's case, they've used TSC to do it. But these are some of the benchmarks, the global benchmarks that people have been adopting from marine stewardship, basically fishing industry, which is relevant to Thailand, to Dow Jones Index, to LEEDs for green buildings, and so on and so forth. And I think that, from HSBC's standpoint of view, we're quite happy to share, our experiences, to work with the Thai local banks, to see how we can work together in terms of promoting sustainability in Thailand. So with that, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Kelvin, for your valuable contributions, for having shared with us great practice over there. Well, now one of the banks which has been done a great deal in terms of promoting sustainability, as you could see in the presentation earlier on by Kun Saruni about the Fair Financing Report 2018. SCB, Siam Commercial Bank, seems to have done a great deal. However, we have no turning back. That means we need to go forward. What will be SCB's next tangible step? As you are the head of the SCB, what will be the key point that you will do tomorrow morning, first thing to embrace sustainability even further?
ครับก่อนอื่นขอบคุณผู้ว่าแล้วก็ธนาคารแห่งประเทศไทยนะครับที่เชิญผมมาวันนี้นะครับก็ first of all I'd like to start with maybe as a last one. I'm not standing there giving a presentation because I come here to learn, not and trying to make myself to commit how to make it happen. But let me try to give my humble experience and view on this. The things that I like to share with actually the whole room and the panel here is to, first of all, the sustainability, the ESG, is not the people. A lot of people talk about fear, problem, issue. But 4 years ago, when I took the CEO job and we started the transformation program, it's actually the way I look at it. This is the part of our strategy. It's how to make the organization succeed in the long term. It's not about you trying to make profit and then you're creating some problem to the world and you need to give back or try to solve it. It's not, I don't think this is not the way to deal with it. It's not a burden. It's not the cost. It's not the problem that you create. But we as a citizen in this society, it's our responsibility to actually help or solve the problem for the society and for the world. I think if we can aim and create that mindset, set up the tone with the board, because most of the time when you're dealing with the challenge or the business opportunities, okay, the hard decision is when you have to let go, because you feel pressure from the performance, from the board most of the time, that if we cannot deal with this request, we cannot compete with the industry or we cannot compete with other banks. I hope we are setting a new trend and we're setting a new direction, and hopefully we will change the standard of the whole industry. I think the first thing that I like to build for the SCB or Siam Commercial Bank is to create commitment from the board and from the top leader that this is not the burden. This will be the new way of the bank will not compromise. If we have to let go short-term business or short-term benefit that going against our principle, we will deal with it. I think if we can tell the whole organization that this is the new norm, this is the new principle of the bank, we will eventually, in the long term, we will change or shape the new direction of the industry, or at least within our own bank. But dealing with the reality, let me share with you in the past that unfortunately, most of the speaker from the previous session are not joining this session. I think most of them were presenting a very interesting, especially Dr. Majun. I think most of the time our staff or our team feel that the ESG is too far, too broad, and too difficult. Okay. When the real challenge or business opportunity come, some of them talking about hydropower. When it come to the bank, when it come as a request to the bank, what kind of standard that we're going to adopt? Right? When the customer tell you that they have done all the good things, they've done all the research, how can we convince ourselves that, should we follow them? What type of standard that we should adopt for the organization? It could be quite costly for the working team to actually adopt the very high standard to define or to quantify that the opportunities or the requests that we have is good or bad. I think this is something that I'd like to maybe address to or share to Bank of Thailand, that, or even the TBA, that if we can set up some best practice or industry standard for everyone to actually translate the policy that most of the people trying to embed it in the risk management policy, but it will not be easy to create the actionable measures when it comes to the real business decision. Right? Maybe I should end my first point or the first question at this point, and let's join the rest of the panel later.
Well, thank you very much. Big round of applause for Kun Arthid. Well, set up the new standards. I'm very glad to hear that the bank with over 100 years of history, 112, I guess?
13.
113? Oh, 13 already. Well, has been committing to sustainability in order to grow even further with the new standards. Well, the same questions applicable to Kun Predee and Kun Piti. Well, many times when we come into a conference like this, we have a lot of ideas circulating, but tomorrow we need to translate that into actions. Therefore, I would like to ask the two gentlemen, Kun Predee first, what will you communicate to your employees tomorrow morning at 9? Or what will be the next tangible actions that you will do tomorrow?
Thank you. So actually at K-Bank, sustainable development philosophy has been used, and it is our policy, our philosophy that we use for many years to do our business and operations. Since the board of directors is the most important in the organization, tone at the top has been set from the board. Chief Executive Officer is the one who driving management, day-to-day management, and he also is the one to drive. Board director also endorse policy process that we need to do. So what we are doing now, we are building sustainable culture for the whole organization. To build sustainable culture, you need to have very clear policy process. You have to have very clear communication. So every day we do repeat the message, the same message to our staff, employees, the whole organization, that they need to understand what our direction is and what we want to be. So starting a year ago, that member of TBA are working together with Bank of Thailand, starting talking about the guideline, which we have signed the MOU today. This is very important compared to the previous year that we have the first meeting here, and then this is the second one. The guidelines has been set, and it's not only a MOU, but it is, I think, I would tell you that it's going to be the enforceable one. So that means I'm going to talk to my colleagues at the TBA member that, okay, just take a look and then carefully, and then we need to do something together. And then I would expect that there would be something that very concrete to be created in very short future amongst our member and also together with the Bank of Thailand. The other thing that I will tell the people that this has been something that it has been overcome by us together with the Bank of Thailand. That's one of the challenges has been overcome. So let's start doing something that because Bank of Thailand and TBA member working together to build the whatever. If you do it every day, it's going to be the culture that's going to be the sustainable culture as we are doing at K-Bank. And it is our duty to embed the philosophy into business processes and decision-making processes to be to have a sustainable culture. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Sustainable culture, that's very important. Well, Kun Piti, tomorrow morning, after the conference today, what will be the next tangible actions that TMB will be rolling out?
I don't think that is only tomorrow. Otherwise, I just have one day, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it must be yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the day
Beyond.
after that we have to keep doing the same thing, creating awareness. And that awareness is 360-degree awareness, meaning that we have to talk to the board, analysts, our peers, employees, customer. What are the real issues for the banks? I think we already heard a lot about environmental impact that banks can cost. I just raised about the financial products that would lead to the wrong behavior that would impact our most important member of all the stakeholders being our own customer. Right? So awareness, raising the awareness is very important. Being in a position like this gives us opportunity to raise that awareness. And even awareness to our own, to be customer, just like the initiative that I just showed, that Thai Bank Association join hands, that we educate students who are about to leave university and have ability to borrow for the first time. So we must create them the awareness that power to borrow would come with great responsibility. Sound like Spider-Man, right?
Sounds like
but
that, yes.
Yeah, but that would be the black Spider-Man that they have. It would destroy them very easily. So I think the top job for us in this room, not just me and colleagues on this panel, is to create and keep doing that, create the right awareness.
Consistently as well, tomorrow and beyond. Well, could Kelvin, maybe you wish to contribute something to this particular point?
Well, I mean, from an international perspective, obviously, let's call a spade a spade. I can't make decisions overnight. I have to follow the tone from the top, which is basically from head office. And we are a complex bank. We are a large organizations. We are in 67 different jurisdictions. I think what we can do on the ground basically is to do the execution. So the tone of the top is right, and I don't think so anybody would argue about the right setting, the right tones, and we all want to do good for society and all that, right? But it's the execution, and I think it's very important that we need to remind our staff and all that to treat customers fairly. I think one of the things that we didn't talk about is governance, right? And I think to grow sustainability, we need to actually treat our customers fairly, and that's something that's a big issue and a big thing that we need to do for HSBC, right? We must always treat customers fairly, when we whatever we sell, but however we deal with them and all that. So that's one of the things that I think we can grow sustainably, because ultimately it's the customers that pays for all our salary and our bonuses and all that, right? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, let's now turn into one point that Arthid has made concerning, we have, for example, shareholders on the one hand. On the other hand, we have other stakeholders. And on the one hand, we have profitability concern. On the other hand, we have concern about sustainability. The point is sometimes some of them might not go along together all the time. In that case, what will be the way that you balance these two together? I will start with Arthid first.
Okay. Again, I think this is not a problem, because as I said, you got to build, you have to build maybe not the awareness, but actually the belief in your organization that if you think for the world, if you're trying to solve the problem for your customer, and you, as Kelvin mentioned, you're not focusing on short-term opportunities or business opportunities. Sometimes and many times you may have to let go some of the short-term business opportunities. But I have strong belief that if your thinking and your design and your belief is to create something that's good for everyone, not just a short term, then you will win. You will succeed and sustain for the long term. This is not a lip service. How can we change from the lip service to operate, to make it happen, to make it practical? Because a lot of challenges, the cost, the competition, all of this are challenging your staff, your organization every day. And we cannot cover everything, every single thing. The decision making, especially the credit decision making, could be at the operating level. When every day they have the request coming in, if they don't have this belief, how can we go down and try to make decision for them? It's not, to me, it's impossible, right? So creating a belief in your organization that this is the strategy, this is not an issue to solve, this is not a problem that you have to be responsible for that because you're trying to making profit. On the other hand, this can come together. That's my view.
Well, thank you. Belief is very solid, and that's important. Well, could Predee, please?
Thank you. Actually, there are a number of stakeholders engaged with K-Bank. And each stakeholder, of course, they have his or her own expectation, which definitely differ from one another. One of the most important expectation, of course, profitability. And it's come from the most powerful stakeholder is that's an investor. So the duties of management is we have to tell all stakeholders to communicate all information that happened with the bank. So we need to make clear that our organization purpose, vision, strategy, what it is, and to make them it clear to all stakeholders. And then they will know who we are. Once they know who we are, they totally understand. And for K-Bank, we are a bank of sustainability. So we keep communicating repeatedly, communicated to stakeholders that who we are and what we will deliver. So once the stakeholders know who we are, they have their own expectation. They know what we will deliver, and they totally understand that how we going to manage or make decision on the bottom line profitability against the sustainability. So this is what normally happen, and the stakeholder know who we are. They definitely understand how we manage the bank's bottom lines again in line with the poverty and sensitivity issues. And then we have to be clearly communicate to all stakeholders that the bank directions, the vision, and also purpose that we want to be. So at K-Banks, we normally do especially the top management and also the chief relation officer keep communicating to our stakeholders all the time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Kun Predee and Kun Piti. How to balance profitability on one hand and sustainability on the other?
Very difficult question.
But Spider-Man can climb.
But let's go back in time again, 1997, right? What every bank were doing at that time is to offer their customer that let borrow through BIBF and central bank will take care of you, 25 baht per dollar. And it did not stay that long. And it wiped out most of all finance companies and many corporate in Thailand. Is that good for shareholder? Of course not. But banks who do not have that product for customer, very difficult for them to survive because all the bank must offer cheap dollar to Thai corporate. Right? That is not sustainable. So striking the balance during that day is very difficult. And I think that difficulty remains the same. Doing this kind of thing would require a lot of courage and leap of faith, because what good things that you are doing might impact your short-term profit. Or the leap of faith that it will be good for long-term sustainability. But management change every 3, 4, 5 years. So the time span to measure the real benefit and the short-term benefit is not that well aligned. That's why we tend to create a lot of problems, big problems once in a while. Then back to this one, I have no answer to this one, but you would require courage from the top, meaning that board management commit that this is the right pathway that we want to commit, the tone from the top, from regulators to set the right tone, the tone from the government that we here for long-term prosperity, not the short-term impact. It's difficult, again, it's difficult, but we should look to the history that if we once we start to trade off short-term profit, it never lasts long.
Thank you very much for that. Well, Kun Kelvin, upon this point, the balance between the two.
I think I kind of alluded to the point that one of the reasons why HSBC embraces sustainability is because we see the opportunity in sustainability. So I think if you think about it from that point of view, that how do we, that this issue is facing all of us. How do we look at it and embrace it, and how to take opportunity to actually make a business out of it, right? I think that's something that we can balance it. Obviously, we have to be realistic in terms of the goals. We are not here to solve the world's problem, but whatever we can from an organizational standpoint of view, if we can work on it, and and as all my distinguished colleagues have said, in the long run, short-term gains is never the correct answer, right? So we have to look at it from a long-term perspective, in terms of treating customers fairly, addressing issues, regarding the climate changes and all that. And I think that in the long run, reputationally, our customers will come to you, and see the benefits of working with organizations like that. Thank you.
Well, if you look at the clock, 60 minutes has been spent already. I've still got a lot of questions. However, there are 2 questions that I need to ask 4 gentlemen here. Some of you might have already referred to challenges in implementing this. Shifting from purely profitability to sustainability. But I wish all of you to stress which of the key challenges pose most difficulty for, shifting from one side into another to make it balanced. Arthid, maybe you are able to help us here.
Okay, well, I start. At the moment, we have this very small team of sustainability. We have less than 5 people who are actually trying to work with the whole organization of 26,000 people, right? And trying to embed this thing into the risk management policy or the sustainability policy. But we probably get there in terms of policy-wise, which it will be ongoing. Over time, we will try to adopt, we will try to learn and adopt more best practice in terms of policy. But how we going to operate or getting this into the real action? I think having a small team trying to work with 26,000 people is not going to work, right? And a lot of the policy, to my view, the way I look at it, is very, very conceptual. It's very broad. And a lot of questions, when you have a real request, and then you look at policy, you end up asking yourself how you're going to define how far you want to go, what type of standard you want to adopt, because you can go even farther. You can go you can claim that, okay, here somebody or some good practice, it's like this. But if you look at the other part of the world, you might find that you are still not good enough. I think when it comes to operationalize all this policy and how we going to embed this into the way the business team, when it comes to the decision making, I think this is the key challenge. What we trying to work and agree on this is search for the good practice and some of the international standard that we can adopt and translate that into the actionable and prepare that sort of actionable list for our staff or for our business team when it comes to the decision making. I think most of the time we cannot go down and help them. We hope that with the list of the detail or actionable measure, I think it will help them to make the right decision.
Well, thank you, Arthid. Predee.
Yes, since there are lots of people involved with the building the culture, so for us, we think about the mindset and awareness. So to build awareness to all our people in the organization that we need to have sustainable culture, and to tell the people outside that we need to do something together to have a sustainable culture that will be created sustainability. So within the organization, you know that building strong culture takes time and commitment. As I mentioned that tone from the top has been set. Board director, chief executive officer, repeatedly doing something that to make sure that the culture will be happen. The first thing that we need to do, we just want, we have to define what we want to do clearly, be the example, communicate properly, and repeat the message using internal communication via lots of channels. Actually, what we have done is we have the 100,000 ชั่วโมงทำดีทำได้ which is a project that we going to reduce number of plastic bags from the communities, and then we allow the people to do without any have to request for leave. So we have been achieved that. I think that the number of hours has been increasing to probably 200,000 ชั่วโมงทำดีทำได้ in order to get the better environment. So we need to implementation, awareness, understanding, and competence to all employees within the organization. So once we have done something, we have normally the policy process is very easy to do, but something difficult is how do you going to execute. And then once you execute it, you need to monitor and evaluate how much you have done according to the guideline, the policy, and then you need to close all the gap. So this is what we are doing.
Thank you. And from perspective of TMB, what are key challenges?
And I would define, since you asked about top 2 challenges, right? So it should be the highest challenge that would stop us from executing it. So oftentimes the top 2 challenges would be first the short-term impact versus long-term gain. Right? Oftentimes we do not make a move because short-term impact is too high. Even the long-term gain is there, but it's remain to be proven. And the second one is us against the rest. should we wait until someone make a move? Otherwise, again, it would impact our short-term profitability first. Then we should wait until someone in the industry or more than one people in the industry start to do that, and then we follow. Again, oftentimes it would be too late. And for some industry, it will be too late for the whole industry because someone outside the industry start to do that and wipe out the whole industry. So that always the top two challenge, the short term versus long term, and us versus the rest. And that's why the right thing rarely happen.
That's very concrete answer. Thank you very much. And Kun Kelvin, from perspective of HSBC.
Yeah. I think from a Thai perspective, from my dealings, I think one of the challenges that I see, let's flip it around. It's not about banks, but it's about our customers. How much of our customers wants to embrace sustainability? So I've had conversation with customers about green bonds, green financing and all that. The first thing they will ask me is it going to be cheaper? And I said, well, not really, but you have a bigger array of investors and all that. And they says, well, no, sorry, I don't want to go through this whole administrative issue and all that, and it's not going to be cheaper for me, right? Then we talk about the Walmart case where, supply chain and all that. We talk to the customers and all that. And many a times, the reality is, it's not criticism, but it's the honest truth is that the finance people in the company does not look at even in terms of, CSR activities and all that. It's normally through the PR people or whatever. And when you talk to the finance people, they have like, okay, so what do I do, How do I get involved in this and all that? So I think these are some of the practical challenges that that we are seeing. And like I said, it's a journey. It's about engaging them and to have that conversation. And I'm sure in the long run, everybody will embrace it. I think good news is that none of our customers that we speak to actually is against any of these things. They all generally, in principle, says they agree to it. But sometimes it is basically, the priority that our customers have also, right? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, and now I wish to turn on to last questions. Of course, banks are not alone in this ecosystem. You are surrounded by stakeholders, and of course, there are other organizations or other stakeholders, for example, regulators, business, who might be able to help shaping a favorable conditions for this kind of new ecosystem that will promote sustainability. If I wish the four gentlemen to name what kind of actions should other help banks in order to promote sustainability, what do you expect from others? I would start from Kun Arthid. You might ask why he's A. So I start always with A. Sorry.
I think the question is on the regulators, right?
Regulator mainly.
Well, sitting in front of our regulators.
They are here, I guess.
Clearly, this event, this seminar is very, very helpful and very useful for the whole industry. I think great appreciate and great initiative from Bank of Thailand. I think this is start from creating awareness, but for each organization or institution, it's up to them. Each of the organization depends on how far you want to go. Right? It depends on your belief. But when it comes to the reality, we still have the business to do, right? And we're still competing. We still have the business to serve our customer. Having the regulators who really see the importance of this thing. I was very inspired by Dr. Majun, right? He talked a lot about the green. Right now in Thailand, we are very far from that. We don't have people who try to do green business. A lot of people who try to do green things for the society, right? But we'll try to give some reward or some benefit to some people who are not trying to do bad things to the society. I think if we all together with our regulator, with Bank of Thailand, trying to set the standard, and there is no fear for everyone to do it together because competition is very dangerous. It pushes us to do some crazy thing many times. But if we work together with the regulators and put our principle or our position very strong and send this strong message to the society, to the customer, that we want to do the good thing, and we expect them to actually try to work together with us. But having this conceptual it's easy to actually to take it, but at what standard, at what level, to make it concrete to everyone. I continue to repeat on this part that when it comes to reality, I'm sure everyone has been dealing with this problem, that how far do we want to go. I think it's up to our country, it's up to our industry, because it's us to define our journey, it's us to define our future. I think, and the key body apart from each of us is the regulator, is Bank of Thailand, who actually is the center of all this initiative. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Khun Arthid.
So thank you. So we know that each bank has its own board director, own management, and then they have their own strategy, vision, and then direction that they want to be. For us, K-Bank, we are saying that we are a bank of sustainability. So we stand for long term. What we are facing is that we try to do something, many things within organization. The difficulties is sometimes working with regulators is sometimes we may not understand the same thing. So from last year to now, TBA worked quite closely with the Bank of Thailand, and then the event today happened because of Bank of Thailand initiative that we need to do something together. And then this is one of the most important because doing a loan, sustainability, most of the people know that it is very costly. And sometimes it's very difficult to make decisions against short-term benefit. And then once the regulators, especially Bank of Thailand here today, understand that TBA members, which is quite powerful in terms of lending in the Thai market, that need to start building something together and doing. This is only one regulators that we are talking about. We still have Security Exchange Commission, Stock Exchange of Thailand, Ministry of Finance, that they still have their own rules that governing us that we more or less need to comply with. So, of course, we understand that have the same direction with the Bank of Thailand. We are expecting that those regulators should have the same clear policy, same mindset, and then in order to help the communities, Thai banks to have same set of awareness and mindset to build sustainable culture in order to make all Thai banks will be, let's say, passing through the tough economic circumstances.
Well, thank you very much. Not only one regulator, but regulators, many. Okay, Khun Piti, please.
Sitting at central bank and have this question, what we would like from regulators when I read the question for the
And the
first
governor is
time.
here.
Yeah, I a bit worry whether this is a trick question. In fact, I think we should think the other way around. Will you wait until you have tax incentive from the government? Then you will start to save for your own retirement. Or will you wait until hospital come up with a campaign for annual health check and then you will go do a health check? Of course not, right? This kind of thing is for your own benefit. I don't think that we should wait until someone come up with something and then we will start to take this kind of steps. This kind of thing is for our own benefit. And I would think that if regulators, government come up with something, that would be the windfall. That would be the upside that help you to speed up your execution or make the long-term benefit realize faster. So I think that should be the mindset, not only for bank but for any industry, that we should not wait until someone incentivize us for something, then we will start to do good things for your own benefit.
Well, thank you very much. This is statement made in Central Bank. Thank you. Well, good Kelvin.
Okay, I have to be very extra careful because as a foreign bank, I've got the lowest ranking in terms of offending the governor. But so I think one of the things that the regulators obviously can do is to provide thought leadership. And this is exactly what the forum is about, right? To provide thought leadership, to create new taxonomy for green financing, to help define the purpose of green financing, what is green financing and all that. To work with NGOs, advocates and businesses, to come together, right? I think the regulators have the power to do that, and it's just not the Bank of Thailand. It's basically, all the different regulators that we've talked about. One of the things that I thought was interesting, I was just trying to read this up, was that, for example, in Japan, the government pension investment fund, which is the world's largest public fund, basically, under the regulation of the government investment funds, they have set up a committee to say that they need to invest in ESG and responsible finance responsibility. So, some of the things, you basically create investor demand, right? So whether it's the insurance companies, the OIC looking at insurance, or asset managers to say that, certain portion of your funds needs to go into, ESG type of investments and all that. So when you create the demand, there'll be more supply coming in. And then the customers will then start looking at it and say, maybe there's an incentive to look at all these green financing and all that. So I think it's something that, we all need to work together, and to share ideas, and it's just not up to the Bank of Thailand or up to the banks. The whole community have to come to work together and make this happen. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think that we still got another 5 minutes for questions from the floor. I mean, I look at the whole crowd, look still very energetic and enthusiastic. So, are there any questions from the floor? Yes, Ajahn Narong. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, microphones. Yeah, please. เชิญเลยครับ
Okay, thank you very much. It seems to me your moderator unreluctant to give the floor a chance to speak. It's almost at the end of the session. I myself especially mentioned and highly praise Dr. Piti of TNB. Because why? Because he brought up the issue of sustainable poverty. So don't think about sustainable in a positive sense. It also include a negative sense. He talked about and show his monitor about the graphic of the poverty or the debt. That thing should be in the focus of the Samakom Thanakan Thai or Thai Association Banker. I highly praise. Let me say again. I brought with me to set on newspaper since last year. I never heard about any big banker talk about sustainable in the customer side. They're all paid together. You paid me, I paid you. That's okay. That's okay. But for the next, I wish Dr. Piti Tantakasem could be the next president of Thai Samakom Thanakan Thai and spearhead the foundation just like the previous session we have AIIB, they mobilize the money from mainland China. I heard that. So Mr. Tantakasem should mobilize money from the bank, big bank and small bank, and help the people in the poor side. Yeah. They live longer not because you have loan, but because we have a better medical service. We have better medical service. They can live until they're late, 80 or 70.
Well, thank you for the input.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions? I mean, I would ask for questions and not statements. It seems that everything seems to be very clear from the four gentlemen. So I would think that Okay, another one. Run quick. Olympic Game is approaching.
Hi, just really quickly. This is something that one of the previous speakers had mentioned. The Mekong River is the second most biodiverse in the world after the Amazon. It feeds almost 60 million people, and we're now facing a drought that we haven't seen in 100 years. Part of it is climate change, and part of it is the over 28 or 23 to 28 hydro dams that are plotted along the Mekong River. One of the controversial one, of course, is Sayaburi, which is Thai-funded, a Thai capitalist group. So it is responsible for part of what the drought that we are now facing. I just wanted to, my question really is, there'll always be deals that have been done that, has 20/20 hindsight. Going forward, though, I would like to hear specifically from SCB and Kasikorn Bank, unfortunately, because you're on the stage right now, as two of the banks who did fund this project, in terms of how you will address this going forward and how this would have implications for your credit policies on sustainability going forward. Thank you.
We have limited time, so the answers can be brief.
As I mentioned earlier that this is, it depends on maybe if you look at the speaker, Kun Sarani, right? Sorry, I couldn't remember her name, but
yes.
Yeah, she recommend the solution. Actually, she is saying that we're not making a statement that we will not do the hydropower, but in fact, there is a standard, right? She recommend that the 3 standard that we should comply, or we should try to work together with our customer. I think that is to me is a good suggestion. We keep asking ourselves what type of standard, right? In that particular project, we also have trying to have our own independent advisor, but maybe it's not good enough. So this is something we would try to keep an eye open and try to do better to improve our quality.
Well, thank you very much for that.
For K-Bank, I think at the time that we granted the loan, the proposal was proposed that there are certain principles that already comply with. So the decision has been made at that time because of certain criteria has been met. But now, I don't know exactly, even now, I don't know exactly the draft that happened is because of the dam or because of this still quite controversial information. And of course, it is the issue and big issue for us that we need to be very, very careful in terms of going forward, in terms of the something that going to have an impact on environmental.
Well, thank you very much for all the answers. I think the time is up. Therefore, I would like to ask a big round of applause for the 4 gentlemen upon the stage.
Thank you, Dr. Witt and all panelists. We have learned what it takes to promote sustainability practice in Thailand, as well as the challenges that need to be overcome to take the leap in sustainable practice.